Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're diving deep into one of the most consequential aspects of any presidency cabinet appointments. These aren't just names and titles, these are the individuals who will shape policy, steer our nation's course, and wield immense power. And let me tell you, President Trump's choices have certainly ignited a firestorm of debate. From seasoned politicians to business tycoons, from controversial figures to those relatively unknown, Trump's cabinet selections are anything but ordinary. First up, the nation's top diplomat, the Secretary of State, Trump's pick, none other than Senator Marco Rubio of Florida. Now this is interesting, folks. Remember the heated exchanges, the fiery rhetoric during the Republican primaries? Rubio and Trump, once rivals on the campaign trail, now poised to work side by side on the world stage. It's a choice that certainly raises eyebrows, a blend of political maneuvering and perhaps an attempt at unity within the party. But how will Rubio, known for his hawkish foreign policy stances, navigate the complexities of international diplomacy in a Trump administration? That remains to be seen. Next, we move to the financial heart of the nation, the Treasury Department. Trump's choice for this critical role? Hedge fund CEO Scott Bessent. Now Bessent's resume is Wall Street through and through. He's a veteran of the financial world, with a deep understanding of markets and money. But his experience in government, well, it's virtually non-existent, and that's raising concerns, folks. Can a Wall Street insider effectively manage the nation's finances, navigate economic policy, and address the concerns of everyday Americans? It's a question that's on the minds of many. And now, to a position that commands the world's most powerful military, the Secretary of Defense. And Trump's pick is turning heads. Pete Hegseth, former Fox News host. Now, Hegseth served in the military, no doubt, but his experience in defense policy is limited. He's known more for his commentary on cable news than for his strategic thinking on national security. This is a move that has some worried, frankly. Can someone with limited policy experience effectively lead the Pentagon and navigate the complexities of global security challenges? It's a question that's being asked in Washington and beyond. Chapter 4. Attorney General, a nomination mired in controversy. The position of Attorney General, the nation's top law enforcement officer. Trump's initial pick, Matt Gaetz, withdrew amidst a swirl of controversy. Stepping into the fray is Pam Bondi, former Attorney General of Florida. Bondi's tenure in Florida wasn't without its own share of scrutiny. She faced accusations of being too cozy with lobbyists, and questions were raised about her judgment. Now she's facing the national spotlight, and the scrutiny is only intensifying. Can she restore confidence in the Justice Department, or will her nomination simply add fuel to the fire of partisan division? Chapter 5. Secretary of the Interior, a governor heads west. From the bustling capital to the vast landscapes of America's heartland, we turn to the Department of the Interior. Trump's pick Doug Burgum, the governor of North Dakota. Burgum's a businessman, a tech entrepreneur who made his fortune in software. But his experience with environmental policy, with managing America's natural resources, is limited. And that's a concern, folks, given the Interior Department's vast responsibilities. Will Burgum be a steward of our public lands, or will he prioritize business interests over conservation? The stakes are high. Chapter 6, Secretary of Agriculture, a policy wonk takes the helm. Now, to the department responsible for America's farms and food supply, the Department of Agriculture. Trump's choice? Brooke Rollins, a longtime policy advisor and head of the America First Policy Institute. Rollins is a seasoned policy wonk, well-versed in the intricacies of government, but her experience in agriculture? It's thin, to say the least. Can she effectively advocate for farmers, navigate complex trade deals, and ensure the safety of our food supply? These are questions that will be closely watched. Chapter 7. The Department of Commerce is responsible for promoting American businesses and economic growth. Trump's pick, billionaire Howard Lutnick. Lutnick's a Wall Street titan, the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, a global financial services firm. He's known for his business acumen and his deal-making prowess. But how will that translate to the world of government, to promoting American businesses on the global stage? Some see a potential conflict of interest, given his vast business holdings. Chapter 8. Next, to the Department of Labor, responsible for protecting workers' rights and ensuring fair labor practices. Trump's pick is Lori Chavez DeRemer, a first-term Republican congresswoman from Oregon. Now, Chavez DeRemer's background is in business, having run a payroll and human resources company, but her experience in labor law, in navigating the complexities of labor unions and worker protections, is limited. Can she effectively balance the interests of workers and businesses, or will she side with corporate interests? Chapter 9. The Department of Health and Human Services, responsible for the health and well-being of millions of Americans. Trump's pick, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., an environmental activist and vaccine skeptic. Now, Kennedy is a prominent voice in the anti-vaccine movement, a stance that has drawn widespread criticism from medical professionals. His appointment has sent shockwaves through the public health community. Will he use his position to advance his controversial views, or will he prioritize evidence-based policy? Chapter 10. Housing and Urban Development, from the gridiron to government. From the football field to the halls of government, Trump's pick for housing and urban development is Scott Turner, a former NFL player. Turner's a familiar face to football fans, but his experience in housing policy, in addressing issues like affordable housing and urban development, is limited. Can he effectively lead a department tasked with addressing some of the most pressing challenges facing our cities and communities? Chapter 11. Transportation Secretary, a congressman takes the wheel. The Department of Transportation responsible for our nation's roads, bridges, and transportation systems. Trump's choice, former Congressman Sean Duffy. Duffy's a familiar face in Washington, known for his conservative views and his support for Trump's agenda. But his experience in transportation policy is limited. Can he effectively oversee a department with a vast budget and a critical role in our nation's infrastructure? Chapter 12. Energy Secretary, an energy executive takes charge. The Department of Energy, responsible for our nation's energy policy and research. Trump's pick, Chris Wright, the CEO of Liberty Energy, an oil and gas company. Wright's a veteran of the energy industry, with a deep understanding of fossil fuels. But his appointment has raised concerns about conflicts of interest, given his ties to the oil and gas industry. Will he prioritize renewable energy and address climate change? Or will he promote the interests of the fossil fuel industry? The Department of Education, responsible for our nation's schools and education policy. Trump's pick, Linda McMahon, former CEO of World Wrestling Entertainment, or WWE. McMahon's a successful businesswoman, but her experience in education is limited. Her appointment has raised concerns about her views on public education, given her support for school choice and charter schools. The Department of Veterans Affairs, responsible for the care of our nation's veterans. Trump's pick, Doug Collins, a former congressman and military veteran. Collins served in the Air Force, and his appointment has been praised by some veterans groups. But he's also faced criticism for his voting record on veterans issues. And finally, the Department of Homeland Security, responsible for protecting our nation from terrorism and other threats. Trump's pick, Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota. Noem is a staunch conservative, known for her hardline views on immigration. Her appointment has been praised by some who support stricter border control measures, but it's also raised concerns about her approach to immigration enforcement. So there you have it, a glimpse into the individuals who will shape policy in the Trump administration. It's a cabinet marked by controversy, by a mix of experience and inexperience, by loyalty and ideology. And one thing is certain, these individuals will be under intense scrutiny, their every move watched and analyzed. The stakes are high, the challenge is immense. The road ahead is uncertain, but one thing is clear. The decisions made by this cabinet will have a profound impact on our nation and on the world. We'll be watching closely, folks. We'll be watching closely.